Hey YouTube, it's your boy Widgie here, coming at you with some more strategy games with AoE 3DE, and today I'm going to give you a beginner's guide to the British. Now, this is my first beginner's guide, so please go easy on me. A few disclaimers before we do kick off with this. Number one, I've only played the game for just over 200 hours. I'm only giving a perspective from the beginner's side of things, and I understand there's lots of different instances where you're going to do different things, so you're going to need to react and everything, but we're just going to try and give the foundational knowledge here specifically to the British civilization. So strap yourselves in. Hope you guys really enjoy this. You guys know what to do to support the channel. You can catch me streaming on Twitch at Widgie1. Let's do this. So, before we jump into the game and we start going through the openings and everything and the sort of the basics to the civilization and starting a game against an opponent, I just want to first touch upon the features, unique units and unique buildings before we do anything, because this is sort of the whole foundation of this civilization, and you want to try and use these features of the Civ to your advantage. So I suggest you head over to ageofempires.fandom.com. It's really useful for this sort of stuff, and as I say, you can always search on other forums and stuff like that, but we're just gonna have a quick look at this and then we're going to jump straight into the action. So if you don't want to see this, then be sure to jump on. I've got timestamps in the video, so let's do it. So features, every manor you build, it spawns a settler. Super crucial. So you want to sort of focus around getting wood so that you can build more houses, you get more settlers, which means you get more of an economical advantage as you're making settlers from your town centre, and you're also making settlers from your houses. So super crucial with this civilization, so got to bear that in mind. We have some Royal Guard units, which is basically your super sort of imperial units, which is your musketeer and your hussar. And unique units, only really two to be honest, so not too much of an overload, trying to understand like what extra units this Civ has and stuff like that. But Longbowmen and the Rocket, to be honest, from a beginner perspective, Longbowmen are an okay unit, definitely, but I wouldn't always focus on building those all the time, training those all the time. So, you know, we'll touch upon that in the video a little bit later. And the unique building obviously is the manor. It's more expensive than a normal house, because of the fact that you get a settler from it. So normal houses are 100 wood and the house is 135 wood, so it's a little bit more. And obviously you've got revolutions, but we're not going to go into that because that's more of the late game, and we're just for a beginner's guide. So we've pretty much touched upon all of that, and let's just jump straight into the gameplay with a basic opening strategy for the British. Let's do it. Right guys, before we start the gameplay of the sort of basic opener for the British, I just want to quickly show the deck that I'm using. This is the 1v1 land deck courtesy of Aussie Drongo, so if you want to find this deck and many others, please feel free to check out his Discord channel, and you can find him on YouTube and everywhere else. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the action. Right, so without further ado, let's jump into this. So this is a pre-recorded run-through of the build order that I'm going to be showing you. Pretty much the basic build order that I would suggest if you're trying out the British, especially on the 1v1 ladder. So pretty much the basic sort of opening for most civilizations, just collecting your crates, getting your explorer to the closest treasures, that sort of stuff, and making sure that you use one or two of your settlers to shoot the nearest animal before it runs away, because herding is obviously a crucial thing to do, especially when you're against rushing civilizations. If you haven't seen my other videos, I've got 5 tips for basic economy video and also a 5 tips for combat video, so I suggest you check them out. They can be really useful in trying to learn more about the game and tips and tricks and stuff like that. So we are playing against AI here, just because I want to give you this sort of build order as clear cut as possible. There are going to be things that are going to occur when you're against a human player. You may get rushed a lot earlier and stuff like that, but I'm going to be showing you the first 10 minutes of this build here. So what you kind of want to do with your treasurer here, your explorer, is you kind of want to focus on looking at either wood or coin treasures. Now, the reason that you want to do coin treasures, I'm just going to pause it here, is because you want the coin treasure and the wood treasure to potentially get hunting dogs earlier. So it all depends on what starting crates you have. Sometimes the starting resources change, but if we just go back here slightly, I'll show you that before I built the market. So before I built the market here, as you can see down there, I had some resources. I had 165 wood and 90 coin. Now, to build the market, as we'll see here, there you go, it cost me 100 wood, which meant that I still had enough wood and gold to get hunting dogs, which is increasing the gather rate of your food. So you kind of want to see if you're able to do that in age 1. And if you are, I suggest putting a market down and doing that. If not, then I suggest just getting a second house. Now, the reason I suggest you do that is just so you have an extra villager in the early stages of the game, and it can help you age up a lot quicker. So the mini-map here on the bottom left is a little cut off from the screen because I'm just showing you in the pre-recorded state here. So I'm just running this on like VLC Media Player. I've just recorded it so that I can easily pause and explain things. So if you're querying that. I accidentally double-clicked all my villagers there, which can happen. So just, you know, try and get them back to what they're doing as soon as possible. See that I sort of did that treasure okay there, not too bad. I've got my villagers queued up, and pretty much this is all it really is in age 1. You know, just making sure that you're getting your villagers out. You can get hunting dogs if you can do. If not, build a second house. Now there is a slightly different type of build that's more of a greedy build where you'll sort of use something called the Mana Boom, which is using the Virginia Company card from the deck, which reduces the cost of your houses. And you're essentially, what you want to do with that build is you want to build a TP, a trading post, and a house instead of 2 houses or a house and a market. But we're not going to show that build. We're just going to show this sort of build here. And I don't know what sort of name I'd give this build. It's sort of like a semi-FF opening with the Musks, so Musketeers. So it's a Musketeer going into a semi-FF. That's what I would call this. So anyway, just sort of herding any herdables that I pick up with my Explorer there, sending them back to the TC. The first card, by the way, that I got that I missed there, the first card I got was the 3 villager card. So that's the first one that I got. And I will discuss what cards ideally to prioritize in age 2. But all you need to worry about for age 1 in this build, I would say, is just getting your 3 settler card or 3 villager card, whatever you want to call it, and then waiting until you get into age 2. So pretty much nothing special here, just using the Explorer to try and just explore around the map, obviously. I mean, that's what they're for. And trying to have a little look on what the enemy is doing. Ideally, you want to sort of scout the enemy at around 4 minutes. You sort of want to have an eye to see what they're doing around 3.5, 4 minutes in, just to get an idea of what they're going to be going for. So as you can see here, I'm just getting into the next stage. So I've just clicked in, starting to get into the next stage, as you can tell by the bar at the top there. And you can see that within the transitions, this is what we call the transition, so between ages. When you're transitioning from age 1 to age 2, ideally you want to move the majority of your villagers over to wood. Now the reason that you want to do that is twofold. First is you want to be able to start building that wood up to get your houses or your manors. And also you want to then have enough wood to get a barracks out. So it's house and barracks. Because the minute you hit into age 2, you want to be able to start immediately building a barracks. And the reason that you want to do that is not really to be aggressive. It's just to be more defensive. So to be able to have that military building there so you can start building military units. And it also safeguards you against an array of rushes that your opponent will be doing. Because, you know, we are playing against an easy AI here. They're not going to rush me or anything like that. So, you know, you just need to bear in mind when you're playing against an actual human being that, you know, sort of probably 30 or 40% of the time, you're probably going to expect some sort of rush. And that's, as I say, something that will come with time and experience. You know, you will lose. I'm just going to let you guys know now, you will lose to rushes. And the only way that you're going to get better is just learning how to try and defend against a rush. And that just takes time. There's something I can't really teach you. It's just sort of experience, just making sure to, you know, garrison your villagers, try not to lose as many villagers, and potentially getting militiamen as well, which you can get from the TC, which is a really good thing to do, which requires, I believe it's food and gold. So, yeah, it's really good with the European civilizations is that you have that militia thing from the town centre, so you can get units out quickly. So you can see here that I'm getting from the market now. Now, I don't know whether this is the most optimal thing to do, but this is just what I do. So I'm just giving you an idea of what I do. Is I get the 2 resource gathering improvements here. I get the placer mines, and I get, I don't know what that's called, that the wood one there. I can't remember. I know that's steel traps. That's placer mines, and it's just the first wood upgrade. So I tend to just get both of those as I'm transitioning into Age 2. And this sort of just helps with your economy a bit. It just gets your economy going a little bit more. So yeah. So you can see that there are a lot of sort of dead, decomposing llamas here. Don't worry about that too much. You know, when we get into Age 2, we're going to be moving over a few of those settlers back over to food. You know, because we selected the politician for 500 food. I actually forgot to mention that. So ideally, when you do age up into Age 2, the politician that you want to pick is either going to be the 500 food or the 2 settlers and 2 semi-fattened cows. That is what I would recommend as your picks. I tend to, most of the time, go 500 food. Depends what you need quicker. If you need the 500 food, if you need food like really, really quick, go for the 500 food. If you don't need it as much, go for the cows there. So let me just wind back slightly there. You can see that we immediately got into Age 2. So the minute that Age 2 chimed, I put down a barracks here. Now the way that I'm sort of positioning my buildings is more of like a defensive manner. I'm sort of closing up the gap here to stop sort of enemy cavalry coming in and stuff like that. So you can either put your military building at the front, or sometimes if you're expecting a really aggressive sort of civ, you can put your military building around the back so that you don't lose it to siege. But yeah, just something to be mindful of. If you do want to play defensive, then you kind of want to sort of close up the gaps as best you can. So got into Age 2 there immediately, and what I do is I get the 700 wood card. So this is the sort of order that I recommend that you prioritize your shipments for Age 2. 700 wood, 600 wood, and 5 settlers, and then 700 gold. That is one route. Another route is 700 wood, 5 settlers, 600 wood, and then 700 gold. But it, as I say, that's sort of the expected route to go. But it all depends on what's happening. For example, if they are attacking your base right now and you've got no defenses, you've got no military, nothing, what you'd want to pick is you want to pick 6 Musks. You see? So it all depends on what scenario is happening. But the most of the time, 90% of the time, or 95% of the time, I would go down the route of 700 wood, 600 wood, 5 settlers. Now, the reason that we're prioritizing wood so much is to do with the fact that you've got that unique building, you've got the manor house that gets you a settler every time you build a house. So it just helps with the wood. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why we sort of want to prioritize that. So you can see here that as I've sort of aged up, I have moved a few villagers over to gold. Now, the reason that I've done that is because what we want to do, ideally, the minute that barracks is complete, we want to be able to immediately start queuing musketeers. And musketeers require food and gold. So we need to make sure that we have enough gold to cover the musketeers and we have enough food. Now here, I actually pretty much, I've got plenty of gold for musketeers because I believe musketeers are worth 25 gold. I think they're 80 food, 25 gold, but don't quote me on that. I can't seem to remember. I don't fully memorize all of the resource requirements of the units. All I know is that they require a lot of food and a small amount of gold. So I think I've probably definitely over collected gold here, but that's not to worry. You know, having some gold is always good because you're going to need more military units in the future, so it's not the end of the world. So you can see here, the first thing that you do when you age up as well is you kind of want to get that barracks down. You want to start collecting the 500 food that arrives at your TC, and then move a couple of villagers over to gold. And then pretty much keep the rest on wood for now because you've got that food from the crates. You really don't need that many villagers on food. You can see here that my split is sort of like a few on gold, like 2 or 3 on gold, and then the rest sort of majority over wood, and then a sort of 30% over food. As I say, it's really, really hard. Like, I'm not expecting you guys to follow this 100% because it all depends on what's happening around you. And as I said, it's really difficult for me to try and teach you that. All I can give you is like the foundation, and you can sort of go away, take that and go away, and then try and sort of just practice this build order, and you'll get better and better. So you can see here that my 700 wood has arrived. I've got 4 villagers collecting it. Now you can have 3 villagers or 2 villagers. I had 4 villagers because I just wanted to get the wood in as soon as possible and start building those houses. So, and that's what we're doing right here. So you can see the placement that I was going to do there. What I suggest that you do is try and sort of put the houses in like a defensive position, so close off any gaps around your base, but then use the extra houses to sort of spread out around you so that it gives you more visibility of the map. You're sort of spreading out rather than sort of keeping sort of tight knit in the corner of your base and not expanding. If you build houses further out, you can then easily start to claim further resources, such as the gold mine out here, for example. So that's what I suggest that you try and do. Try and expand a bit. Expand your economy, try and spread further out and try and sort of dominate the area around you, and it will start to sort of put off your opponent. It will start to sort of make your opponent a bit uneasy because you're spreading out so much and you're showing like how dominant you are as an opponent. So it sort of just gets into that sort of psyche. It's like a psychological game, really. So that's what I suggest you do. Don't try and hide away too much. Try and spread out a bit if you can. So you can see my 5 musketeers are out, and I've got some already queuing. And at the moment, I've got 6 people on gold. Probably a little bit too much. Probably only want like maybe 4 or 5. I think 5 is the most optimum amount to produce musketeers. So 5 or 6, whatever you want to do. And you can see now I've switched all villagers over to food because I had that wood shipment. I had the 700 wood shipment and the 600 wood shipment. It means I've got so much wood now, I don't really need to be chopping wood. I can get those villagers back over to food, make sure that I'm getting my musketeers out, and I'm making sure that I'm getting my settlers out at all times. So as I say, I don't want to kind of overload your brain too much. It's just a beginner's guide, just a beginner opening. I mean, the herding there was quite bad, but it's not the end of the world. I don't want to kind of just, absolutely sort of drown you in information and stuff like that. So you can see I'm starting to get the 600 wood now. So that's why I haven't got any villagers currently chopping wood. I've got 600 wood coming in. There's probably no real need to get many on wood, to be honest. So I'm just trying to focus majority on food and 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 on gold. You can see here I'm just using her to lure the llama there. Luring is really important. Making sure that you lure your hunts towards your TC. It just makes it more defensive. You can, protect your villagers a lot more. It means your villagers have got a shorter distance to be able to get garrisoned in your TC, so you don't lose as many if your enemy decides to raid you. So you can see here I've got 15 musks. I probably could have got a few more out, but it's all just practice, really. I'm still practicing playing as the British. I'm not by any means a professional playing as the British. No way. I'm still learning a lot about the civilization. And I thought I'd just give, as I say, you guys an idea, especially beginners, an idea of my sort of build. And it's been quite successful on the ladder, so I thought I'd show you this sort of basic build. And at this point, it's kind of interesting. So you're coming up to around 7 minutes in the game. This sort of build, I would say, is a semi-fast fortress. So in my head, I'm thinking semi-fast fortress, expecting to age up at around like 12 minutes, 11, 12 minutes into the fortress age. So we've got quite a while yet before we need to think about that. So at this stage, it all depends on what's happening in the game. This is where my teaching sort of starts to become less and less effective. Because as the game goes on, it all depends on what your opponent's going to do or what your opponent is doing right now. It all depends on what's happening. And as I say, I'm playing against AI here, so they're not going to attack me because it's on easy. I'm just showing you the build. And it's very, very difficult at this point to be able to advise you on what to do at any given situation. It's not a one-size-fits-all scenario. So at this point, I thought, yeah, I'll just build a stables. But it's entirely up to you. I mean, you could build a second racks so that you can, you can start moving a few more settlers over to gold, and then, you can use more of your food to get more musketeers out. You could go down the route of maybe aging up earlier than what I said. Depends on how aggressive your opponent is, how successful your attack is, because at the moment I'm starting to push my musketeers out to have a look at what's going on. So that's what I suggest you do around the 6.5, 7 minutes. If you've got some troops, just push them out forward and just have a look at what your opponent's doing, or use your explorer to get in there to just have a look at what they're doing, see what army they've got, see whether they're maybe doing a fast fortress, so they're aging up into age 3 a lot quicker, all those sort of things. So here I'm just constantly getting musketeers out still. I should be getting villagers out. I haven't got one trained at the moment. I'm not too good with that yet, trying to constantly create villagers. I need to work on that myself, but you see, there you go, I've queued up some more. I've got 20 musketeers now, ready to go. I'm spreading those houses out, and I'm going to also claim that hunt there. So here's the computer, the AI just sort of pushing out with dogs, because I think they're playing as the Inca. They actually steal that from me. They actually steal that treasure from me there, which is kind of crazy. So just sort of focusing on food and gold at the moment. I've got 0 wood, as you can see. Now at this stage, I wouldn't sort of recommend this sort of split here. I've probably got too many villagers on food, and you see in the near future I move some over to wood. I would suggest to keep some on wood, probably about the same number as the amount on gold, just for now. And because you've got that background wood income, you can just keep building houses with that wood, so that it just boosts your economy even further, because you're going to be getting settlers from those houses. But as I say, this is only if you're intending on producing musketeers. This is what this build is about. It's producing those musketeers and it's moving them out. It's all dependent on that. And as I say, what could happen is there could be units that your opponent has that counters your musketeers, and then you need to rethink your strategy. And that is where, just over time, as you practice and learn to adapt and react within games, that will just take time. And that is something that I can't teach you. And it is frustrating, I know, but I can't teach you that. All I can give you is this overview of the build that I do. So if, for example, they did have a unit that was countering your musketeers, so you may think, okay, do I need to go longbows? Do I need to go hussars? Do I need to just age up into age 3 and go skirmishers from the barracks instead? What do I need to focus on? So there's all those different scenarios that can happen. And as I say, that's just going to come in time with experience and stuff like that. So the only way to get better is just to keep laddering. If you keep laddering and you're losing, it's just you just gotta grin and bear it. It's just a learning process. I played StarCraft 2. When I first was playing StarCraft 2, I lost about 15 games in a row before I won my first game. It's brutal, but when you get that first win, it's a great feeling, and you start to then sort of snowball after that, and it starts to get a lot more enjoyable to play, and you start to learn a lot more and stuff like that. So you can see here I've got 30 musketeers. I'm just moving up into the enemy base now. Like, I know that because it's an easy AI, he's not really going to have much, so I'm just sort of giving you an idea. And you can see here that now I'm coming up to 9.5 minutes, and I've got my gold shipment, so my 700 gold. Now when you sort of get your 700 gold, that's the time when you want to start to think about getting into the fortress age, into age 3. So as I mentioned, when you get into age 2, you kind of want to go 700 wood, 600 wood, 5 settlers, and then 700 gold. That's your ideal sort of scenario. However, if you're being more aggressive, you might want to go for the musketeer upgrade instead, or you might want to get 6 musketeers out and then go 700 gold. It's entirely up to you, but that's the sort of the order in the shipments that I got with this build order. And as I say, all you need is 1,000 gold and 1,200 food to be able to get into age 3. So just think at the back of your head, when you get the 700 gold, just make sure that you've mined 300 so that it makes your 1,000 and you can get straight into it. So you can see here that I've actually transferred a lot over to wood, but I start to get a few more over to gold. So you can see how that shifted there. I had like 5 or 6 and I shifted a few over to make it 9. And I've got 11 on wood at the moment, 17 on food. You can see the amount of food I'm collecting. So it's all about, it's just a big management game, like with your resources. It's managing your resources, like, and making sure that you're efficiently spending your resources. And you're not just racking up tons of resources that you're not using. So you've got to be really efficient with your resources. You've got to be using them at all times. And you want to keep your resources as low as possible unless you're using it to age up. Unless you're stockpiling your resources to age up, you want to kind of use them as much as possible and be as efficient as you can. So we're just coming up to 10 minutes 30 now. And this is, yeah, pretty much the end of the build here, because as you can see, our good old AI decides to pack it in and surrender. So that's sort of the overview there. So, you know, I hope that really helps to give you an idea around the build order and what the basic build order is for the British. There's multiple build orders out there. I'm just giving you one and giving you an idea on what you should prioritize, what's unique to the British, what's the advantages of using those unique things for the British, and what you should focus on, like what you should prioritize with your resources and stuff like that. So I hope this is useful. I hope this build order has been useful for you. And yeah, that's pretty much it around that. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this sort of beginner's guide to the British. So we sort of covered a few things. We had the introduction. We then covered the unique sort of units and buildings and how to use those and really sort of get that advantage for your civilization. Use those unique things to the full potential to be able to destroy your opponent. And then just give you an idea of like a basic build order. Just an example of a basic opening with the musketeers. So I hope this really helped you. As I say, I've got a few videos for beginners, such as 5 tips for economy and 5 tips for combat. I really suggest you check those videos out as well. They should really help you in getting on the ladder and crushing your opponents. So you guys know what to do to support the channel. Please let me know in the comments below if I've forgotten anything, if anything's been really useful, anything not so useful, please let me know. Drop a like for your boy, and I'll see you in the next video, or I'll be streaming on Twitch at Widgie1. Catch you guys later.